My mother-in-law made glutinous rice cakes and insisted on feeding them to my 5-month-old daughter. After the operation, my daughter vomited blood. When she was sent to the hospital, her intestines were already folded together. The doctor said that the operation required blood transfusion. My daughter and my husband have panda blood, and there is no blood in the blood bank. I called my husband to ask him to come and donate blood. But my husband is accompanying his sister to see a pet dog for indigestion. Please don't bother my mother, okay? I just asked. My mother went back to her hometown early in the morning. If I lose my daughter, then none of you will live. My mother-in-law fiddled in the kitchen for a long time early in the morning and brought out a plate of hot white snacks. It looked a little sticky. This is the traditional glutinous rice cake in our hometown. The child will definitely be admitted to high school after eating it. I held my daughter and shook my head. Mom is only 5 months old and can't eat glutinous rice. When my mother-in-law heard me refute her face fell immediately. Didn't the baby start eating rice paste? Why can't I eat it? Aren't rice cakes made of rice? I patiently explained that rice paste is made of rice, and glutinous rice is a sticky food that the baby's stomach and intestines cannot digest, and the baby's spleen and stomach are weak. I eat probiotics every day and I need to pay special attention to my diet. My mother-in-law didn't listen and shouted, "You just dislike my cooking and eat junk food outside every day. When you were pregnant, I asked you to eat more bacon I made to supplement your nutrition, but you didn't listen and now Eneen is weak." I saw my mother-in-law turned over and felt bloated, so I quickly hugged my daughter and hid in the room. The bacon that my mother-in-law dried herself had a layer of green hair on it. I didn't dare to touch it when I was pregnant, but after I gave birth, even if I had a headache, my mother-in-law would blame me for not eating the bacon she made at that time. My parents-in-law are not well educated, and they are stubborn and determined. No one can understand. Since Eneen was 3 months old, my parents-in-law always wanted to give him some meals or snacks. There was even one time when my father-in-law held out a chopstick of white wine to feed Eneen, but I stopped him in time. My mother-in-law also argued that my son had started eating meat when he was just 1 month old. Now he is 1.8 meters tall and handsome, but you don't allow him to be fed. You are disgusted with us old men and women. When I saw my mother-in-law pretending to wipe her tears, my husband Raymond Lamb helped her out. So don't be too sensitive. When we were young, there was no milk powder or rice porridge. We were fed with rice and vegetables, but we all grew up well. Raymond Lamb is obviously a person with higher education, but he still said such things. I was very angry. Did the children in the past grow up? They were all dead. With such parents, you are lucky to survive. In the end, everyone parted unhappily. Since then, the relationship between Raymond Lamb and I has been a little cold. Although today is a statutory holiday, Lin Feng also said that he was working overtime and left the house early in the morning. I was now focused on my daughter and didn't care too much. After a while, my mother-in-law knocked on the door of my room, suing, "Come out for lunch quickly, you didn't eat breakfast, don't be hungry." Hearing my mother-in-law say this, I couldn't hide anymore, so I held my daughter out to eat. When my mother-in-law saw me sitting down at the dining table, she quickly took my daughter from my arms. "You eat first, I hold Eneen first, you eat and then I eat." I suddenly felt warm in my heart. In fact, my mother-in-law also has many advantages. The first one is that she is diligent. Since I gave birth to my daughter, my parents-in-law moved in, and I haven't been in the kitchen again. They are usually good to Eneen, but their parenting concept is a bit backward. Thinking of this, I picked up a piece of cold glutinous rice cake with chopsticks and took a bite. "Mom, Eneen, I can eat it if you can eat it. This glutinous rice cake tastes good. In fact, this glutinous rice cake has no taste and is a bit greasy." My mother-in-law smiled and said, "Is it delicious? I'll get you some sugar. It tastes better with sugar. It's good to dip it in sugar. Otherwise I can't swallow it." I said I'll get it myself. When I got to the kitchen, I saw that the sugar was all gone. So I opened a new bag and poured it into the sugar jar, and then scooped out a spoonful and sprinkled it on the plate. When I returned to the dining room with the plate, I found that my mother-in-law was sitting in my seat. There was still a small piece of glutinous rice on the corner of Eneen's mouth in her arms. I was shocked and threw the plate on the ground. I snatched my daughter's mother from her hand and said, "Did you feed Eneen glutinous rice cake?" My mother-in-law said with a beaming face, "Our Eneen insisted on eating it. She ate several mouthfuls at once. Eneen will definitely go to Tsinghua University and Peking University to be a top student in the future." I collapsed instantly. Babies can't eat zongzi. Why do you always feed them things they can't eat? Why don't they listen? My smiling daughter pouted and cried because of my mood change. My father-in-law saw this and threw his chopsticks aside. "You see, Eneen was eating happily, but you made her cry as soon as you came. Can we still harm our granddaughter?" My father-in-law and mother-in-law started to play the good cop and the bad cop again, saying to me that they made my daughter cry so hard that she was out of breath. I could only hide in my room again. After coaxing my daughter, I was still uneasy. I called Raymond Lamb, but the call was hung up after 2 rings. During the meeting, I replied to him and asked what time he would be back. I needed the car and would come back as soon as possible. I typed a few lines and then deleted them. Forget it, there was no point in complaining. Lin Feng either tried to smooth things over or blamed me for being too busy and making things difficult for the old man. I should wait until we went to the hospital for a checkup. Who knew that after waiting for a long time, Lin Feng didn't come back, and Yimin started to vomit. I called Lin Feng like crazy but no one answered. My mother-in-law was still muttering, asking if she had caught a cold when she was sleeping just now, and why did she vomit? I pushed him away. And you still don't know you are wrong. Yimin ate rice dumplings. Fortunately at this time the taxi I called arrived. I quickly got in the car with the child. My mother-in-law also squeezed in. I didn't have time to pay attention to her and urged the driver hard. In the car my daughter still couldn't stop vomiting. Her breathing became more and more rapid, and her 2 calves kicked hard. I pressed my stomach against my daughter's legs for fear that she would get hurt. The pain from my stomach was not even 1/10,000 of my heartache. The 10-minute drive seemed to have passed by for a while. It was as long as a century. When we arrived at the hospital, Yin's face had lost all color. The doctor quickly did a checkup. The child had started to bleed. The initial suspicion was acute intussusception. What did you feed the child today? I lowered my head and realized belatedly that there were some dark red bloodstains on my t-shirt. My mother-in-law's sharp voice rang in my ears. My granddaughter just ate some glutinous rice cakes. How could she have bleeding? You must have done some examination on her and stabbed her and made her bleed. I'm going to call the police. The doctor immediately grasped the key point of glutinous rice. Feeding glutinous rice to a 5-month-old baby. How can you be a mother? Acute intussusception can die if you fool around, did you know that? I knelt on the ground with my hands grasping the hem of the doctor's coat, begging to save my daughter. At this time the nurse ran over and said anxiously, Director Liao, 3 air enemas are ineffective. Do you want to prepare for surgery? Director Liao looked at me, and before he could speak I nodded quickly. I agreed to the surgery as long as my daughter can be saved. I will sign immediately. My mother-in-law came to pull me, muttering to me, Be careful, you are so stupid, haven't you heard that? Whose child needs surgery after eating glutinous rice cakes? Hospitals are all scams. You listen to me when it comes to money. I gathered the last bit of my strength and pushed my mother-in-law away, pointing at the large area of my chest and roaring, See, Ying has already started to bleed in the car. I didn't let you feed her. Why didn't you listen to me? If you kill my daughter, I will let your son be buried with her. Looking at me like a mad dog, my mother-in-law's lips trembled a few times and she dared not speak. I forced myself to calm down, and rushed back and forth to sign and pay the fee, without noticing that my mother-in-law had secretly left the hospital. After quickly completing the preoperative examination, the doctor told me that because it was Rh-negative blood, the hospital's blood bank did not have any reserves. Rh-negative blood is hereditary. If you are not, then your husband is likely to be. Can you ask him to come and donate blood now? I quickly took out my mobile phone. I make a phone call and my husband will be here soon. Lin Feng's company is only a dozen minutes drive from the hospital. A nurse came over in time. Director Liao, Lin Yimin is in shock. The doctor's face was stern. The operation must be started. When your husband arrives, just find the nurse and arrange for a blood draw immediately. I listened to the beeping sound in the phone and bit my lip in a hurry. Answer the phone. Hello. The call was finally connected. I explained everything in one breath and asked Lin Feng to come to the children's hospital as soon as possible. Knowing that I am busy now, Lin Feng's tone was nonchalant. Brother Lin Feng, look at why Pippi doesn't eat. Isn't there a pet hospital next to your company? Let's go over and have a look. A soft girl's voice came from the receiver, followed by Lin Feng's gentle answer. I'll go now. I held the phone with a look of disbelief on my face. What did I hear? This voice sounded like the girl adopted by Lin Feng's family. She was considered the sister of his adoptive father and mother, Lin Shui and Pippi. I heard from Lin Feng that it was Lin Shui's pet dog. Our daughter is in the hospital and her life is in danger. Lin Feng is going to see the pet dog now. Am I too nervous and hallucinating? The sound of the Didi phone being hung up woke me up. I called back immediately. The user you dialed was busy. The lights on the wall of the operating room were already on. I couldn't wait any longer, so I took a taxi at the hospital gate and went straight to Lin Feng's company. On the way I kept calling Lin Feng's phone but it was always busy. Halfway through the weather suddenly changed. It was pouring rain. There was a traffic jam ahead. It was only a few hundred meters away from the pet hospital. I paid the taxi fare, got out of the car and ran. When I got to the pet hospital, I was soaked and my face was covered with rain. Lin Feng and Lin Shui happened to be standing on the steps in front of the pet hospital. Seeing me so embarrassed, Lin Feng frowned and asked, Why are you here? I wiped the rain off my face and said anxiously, Didn't I tell you on the phone that you need a blood transfusion for the operation? He has the same panda blood as you. Lin Feng waved his hand impatiently. Are you done yet? Ever since you gave birth to the child, you have been causing trouble for my mother every day. I have already called my mother and asked her. She and my father went back to the countryside early in the morning. What are you acting here? I felt extremely absurd when I heard him say that. How could I lie to you with my daughter's life? Before Lin Feng could answer, Lin Shui on the side said delicately, Brother, your sister-in-law doesn't want to see you with me, so she wanted to trick you away. But sister-in-law, you shouldn't lie about the child. Your brother will be sad. Lin Feng touched Lin Shui's hair. His eyes were as gentle as water, and when he turned to me, his eyes were full of disgust. You go home first, I will go back after I accompany Xiaoxue to see Pippi. After he finished speaking, he turned around and was about to go to the pet hospital. I was going crazy. I knelt down desperately and grabbed his trouser legs. Please come to the hospital with me, my Yinyin needs you please. Lin Feng's expression was a little moved. He was hesitating, and my heart hope rose, but Lin Shui grabbed Lin Feng's hand and shook it, saying sadly, Brother, look at Pippi, he seems to be in pain. Lin Feng immediately kicked me away. Okay. Go home quickly, you left Yi alone at home, didn't you? You are an irresponsible and unloving mother. Can't you see that Pippi is sick? Stop making trouble. Okay. After that, the two of them went into the pet hospital. I struggled to get up from the ground and was about to follow him in. What was dignity? Even if I had to hold Lin Feng at knife point, I would make him go to the hospital to draw blood. At this time my phone rang. It was the hospital calling. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. I pressed the answer button several times before I could get to the answer button. Is it Lin Ying's family? Why hasn't the Rh-negative blood donor come yet? The child has severe intestinal bleeding and needs a blood transfusion urgently. My blood rushed to my brain in an instant. I stood up and staggered up the stairs. He will be here soon, and I will tie him up. At this time my hand suddenly, another person's voice came from the phone, like the whisper of a devil. Notify Lin Yin's family, the child could not be rescued. I was afraid that the phone would slip to the ground, and my heart broke along with the screen. I lifted the white cloth and Yin Yin's face was still as white and lovely as ever, but with less blush. Isn't my Yin Yin still alive? Her body was a little cold. It must be that the air conditioning in the hospital was turned on too high. She would be fine when she went home. I picked up my daughter and walked out. A group of people around me were saying something to me, but there was only a buzzing sound in my ears. When I got to the hospital gate, someone came to snatch my child. In broad daylight, human traffickers actually snatched the child directly. I shouted for help, but no one around helped me. I didn't know where I lost my shoes and my clothes were still dripping. My wet hair was stuck to my face. I must look like a ghost, so they all came to snatch my child. Someone shouted in my ear. He's dead. Who is dead? Who is dead? Yinyin is dead. My child was taken away by the doctor. I wanted to get it back, but I had no strength. I lay on the ground and cried loudly. My tears mixed with rain and fell to the ground. I would rather die for my daughter. Why didn't I die? Why didn't he die? I hated myself for returning home like a zombie. My parents-in-law were gone. All traces of the glutinous rice cakes in the dining room and the kitchen had disappeared. Not only did they pack up and flee back to their hometown, they also lied to Lin Feng, making Lin Feng think I was throwing a tantrum. I dialed my mother-in-law's number. The number rang for a long time before it was picked up. Grandma Wei's voice seemed to tremble a little. Yinyin is dead. My voice was frighteningly calm. You fart. My father-in-law snatched the phone away. Don't scare us. The old man and the old lady think we don't know how to take care of the child. You take care of it yourself. We're going back to our hometown. The call was hung up. I stared at the screen of my phone for a while, then started contacting the funeral home, and went to the street office to get a death certificate. I couldn't let Yinyin stay in the morgue alone for too long. It was too cold. In the evening Lin Feng came back. Yinyin's father came back. Lin Feng's tone was very happy. Probably because Lin Shui's pet dog was cured. I sat on the sofa in the living room staring at him blankly. He frowned and asked me, Didn't you see that your daughter is still angry? I still stared at her intently without blinking. Lin Feng's scalp might be numb from my stare, and he forced a smile to ease the atmosphere. You are not still angry with Lin Shui, are you? He just has a child's temper. It's been so many years, you know that my parents have been driven away by you, and it will be hard to raise the child alone in the future. Wife Lin Feng said that he was about to come over. Dad, I don't have a child. What? Yinyin is dead. My voice was as calm as a pool of stagnant water. Lin Feng didn't believe it. Can you stop making trouble? How can you curse your daughter like this? I took the death report on the table in my hand and walked towards Lin Feng step by step. I have been married to you for so many years. I can accept the quarrel between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, but you are biased. If you stand up for your mother, I can tolerate you and your non-blood related sister going out together, but why did your parents feed Eneen with glutinous rice cakes and kill her? They clearly said that Eneen was still young and couldn't eat those things. Why did they have to be so stubborn? Why was a bloody dog more important than your daughter? If you come to the hospital to donate blood, as long as you come, Eneen will not die. At the end of the speech I was already roaring. A fishy and sweet taste rose in my mouth, and my throat felt like it was burning. Lin Feng took the death report, read the cause of death again and again, and checked every room to see if I had hidden my daughter. My wife came over and hugged me forcefully. It was my parents' fault, it was their fault. The person is gone, we have to mourn. As long as we are well, we will have children, and then we will have a boy. My father has always wanted a grandson. The little bit of reason I had left was instantly gone. I broke free from Lin Feng's arms, picked up the ashtray on the table, and smashed it at Lin Feng. Go to hell. Blood flowed from Lin Feng's temple. He staggered twice, his eyes turned red. He kicked me to the ground, then sat on my stomach. I slapped him more than a dozen times. You dare to hit me? Fuck your mother for giving you face, you stinky girl and liar, you can die if you die. I will send you down to accompany her today. Anyway, Lin Shui is pregnant, I still need you, a yellow-faced woman, to do some work. Lin Feng's weight of 170 to 180 kilograms almost made my internal organs vomit out. My consciousness gradually became blurred. At this moment I heard him say that Lin Shui was pregnant. I can't help this pair of dogs and bitches. I bit my tongue hard, looked at Lin Feng's distorted face, raised the ashtray I had been holding, and slammed it on his crotch. Lin Feng covered his crotch in pain and curled up. I flipped him to the ground with force, and hit him on the back of his head with the ashtray in my hand. Lin Feng finally lay on the ground motionless. I spat out a bloody tooth. I collapsed on the ground and gasped for a while, then moved to Lin Feng and touched his neck. I was relieved that he was still alive. Things had come to this point. Letting Lin Feng die so simply would be too easy for him. I found a large ball of plastic rope from the kitchen, tied Lin Feng up, and used IRAT to tie the fingers of his two hands together in pairs. I took out his mobile phone from my pocket, unlocked it with my fingerprint, found Lin Shui and Lin Feng on WeChat, and pinned him to the top of the list so I didn't have to work hard to find him. Xiaoxue, that shrewd woman, went on a long trip. You can bring Pippi to stay with me for a few days. I'll let my mother make you something delicious. Lin Shui replied immediately. Okay, brother has been craving for sour food recently. I'll take a taxi over now. Then I sent a WeChat message to my mother-in-law, saying that she's fine and has been discharged from the hospital. You and my dad can come back. Xiaoxue's house has expired, so she also wants to go home and live. She wants to eat the food you cook. After a while, my mother-in-law replied with a 60-second voice message, saying that I should buy the tickets now and I can get them tomorrow. I arrived and asked Xiaoxue to wait for the bacon she fried. Then she kept complaining about me, saying that I was making a fuss. After sending the message, I recovered a little strength and it took me about 20 minutes to move Lin Feng to the bedroom. Calculating the time, Lin Shui should be here too. I watched on the balcony for a few minutes and saw Lin Shui getting off the taxi with the dog in her arms. I opened the door to the outside a crack and then pulled the inner wooden door open and hid behind the door. The sound of small leather shoes was getting closer and closer. I clenched the ashtray in my hand. With a squeak, the security door was opened. Lin Shui's voice came from far away and came closer. Brother, I'm here. The dog in his arms also barked. Woof woof. It sounds like he's completely recovered from the illness. Where are you, brother? Lin Shui changed into slippers and walked into the house. As long as he turned around, he could see me looking at him with red eyes. The moment he turned his head, I raised the ashtray in my hand and smashed it. The second time was much more skillful. It only took one hit. Lin Shui fainted, and I did the same to move Lin Shui into the bedroom. I tied the dog with a rope and tied it around his neck. I sat on the bed in the bedroom and flipped through the photo album on my phone. From the time Eneen was born to the day before she went to the hospital, I would record her cute moments every day. But it was a pity that my Eneen would never move again, and would never smile at my brother again. Not long after, Lin Feng woke up first. He had a headache and probably wanted to touch his head, but his hands were tied and his body tilted and he fell to the ground. Lin Feng finally saw me sitting on the bed and Lin Shui, who was unconscious against the wall opposite him. He was so anxious that he kicked his legs. Suing, what are you doing? You're breaking the law, you know that. I tilted my head. It's not illegal for you to kill Eneen, but why is it illegal for me to avenge Eneen? What does it have to do with us if you go crazy and die in the hospital? I smiled and reached out to pinch the dog's neck and lifted it up in the air. The puppy struggled and whimpered. I looked at Lin Feng and asked him to think about it carefully. It's okay. Before Lin Feng could answer, Lin Shui also woke up, looking at the scene in front of her and screamed, Suing, let go of Pippi, 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 don't be afraid, Mom will save you. Lin Shui's words hurt me again. I threw the dog on the ground, picked up 2 fruit knives from the bed, threw one at Lin Shue's feet, and held the other in her hand towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng rubbed back in fear. Wife, if you have something to say it nicely. I'm your husband. Do you want to murder your husband? I haven't answered yet. When Lin Shui heard this, she glared. Brother is really a green tea. At this time, Lin Shui still has the mind to be jealous. Lin Feng and the dog, you have to choose one. If you want to save your dog, son, I will kill Lin Feng. If you want to save Lin Feng, kill the dog yourself. I slapped Lin Feng's face with a knife. My dear husband, what do you think your good sister will choose? The cold blade aroused a large area of goosebumps on Lin Feng's neck. He collapsed and shouted, Xiaoxue, kill the dog, kill the dog. Lin Shui shook her head. No, I don't. Pippi is my family. Brother, don't be afraid. He didn't dare to kill anyone. How could he dare to kill anyone? It's impossible. Lin Shui hadn't finished speaking when she stabbed Lin Feng in the shoulder. Lin Feng screamed, Please pull out the knife. Blood slowly overflowed from his clothes. I didn't dare. I looked at Lin Shui and stabbed again. If you don't do it, I'll keep stabbing. This small fruit knife can probably stab him 70 or 80 times. After being stabbed twice, Lin Feng's lips turned pale instantly. He trembled and begged my wife to forgive my sister for killing a dog. I looked at him coldly. That's not how I begged you on the street today. Lin Feng was stunned, then knelt on the ground, biting my trouser leg with his teeth. Please let me go. I found a suitable position on his back and stabbed him again. Ah, suing, fuck your mother, I've pleased you TM. Seeing the blood flowing more and more, Lin Shui finally figured out whether the dog or the person was more important. I'll kill Pippi. But you have to untie the rope for me. Lin Shui twisted her body anxiously. You don't have hands, but you still have a mouth. Lin Feng told me last time when he was drunk, your mouth is better than your hands, unlike me who is like a piece of wood, right Lin Feng? Lin Shui resigned herself to using her mouth to reach the handle of the fruit knife, then stabbed the dog with the fruit knife in her mouth. The knife didn't go in, the dog's skin was cut, and it howled in pain and wanted to run away, but unfortunately the rope for tying the dog was tied to Lin Shui's neck. Lin Shui was strangled and rolled her eyes. I stabbed the 4th knife, which went in from the bone gap of Lin Feng's palm. The scream stimulated Lin Shui. She turned her head a few times, shortened the rope, and then shook his head back and forth frantically. The dog's wailing became smaller and smaller, and there was more and more blood on Lin Shui's face. 10 minutes later, the bedroom was quiet. I walked over to pick up the fruit knife that fell on the ground and touched the bloody Pippi. Are you innocent? Yinyin is innocent too. You are the same as Yinyin. You can only blame your incompetent mother who can't protect you. Lin Shui leaned against the wall with lifeless eyes. I touched her lower abdomen with a knife. When I got married, you also wore a wedding dress and went on stage with us. You also held hands with Lin Feng. After so many years, you and him have been like a couple. None of this matters, but why can't you take the dog to see a doctor yourself and let Lin Feng go to the hospital for treatment? What about Yinyin? Now Yinyin is dead, do you regret it? The tip of the knife cut Lin Shui's clothes. He finally came to his senses, his face covered with tears, snot and blood. I regret it, sister-in-law, I was wrong, please forgive me. I will stay away from you in the future. The fruit knife was completely inserted into Lin Shui's lower abdomen, where the uterus is. Lin Feng has been lying on the ground for a long time without moving. Before I left the bedroom, I kindly reminded them that the knife is left to you. If you let Lin Feng pull the knife out with his mouth, maybe you can cut the rope. But there is a little common sense, you will live longer with a knife stuck in your body. Calculating the time, there are still 8 hours and your parents should be here. It's too easy to die. I want them to feel the passing of life little by little between hope and despair. I went to the bathroom to wash my face, then looked at Yinyin's photos in the living room, and endured the next day with tears. Lin Feng's mother sent him a WeChat message. Son, we are almost there. Will you come to pick us up? I replied, Mom, Xiaoxue and I are going out. You guys can take a taxi. Suing will open the door for you at home. His mother replied with a 60-second voice message, and I knew without listening that she was complaining to me. 60 seconds is the limit of WeChat, not her mother's limit. But it doesn't matter, everything is almost over. The doorbell rang and I opened the door. My parents-in-law were standing at the door with stern faces, like wooden hands, knowing to take the things from our hands. The mother-in-law threw the things on the ground, took off her shoes and went straight to the sofa. Oh, I'm so tired from all the way here. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been able to get through this. Is it necessary for old bones to be so tired? I brought 2 cups of warm water and put them on the coffee table. Mom and Dad drank some water, and my parents-in-law drank it all. My father-in-law put the cup down and poured another cup to feed the birds. My mother-in-law wiped her mouth. This water has a strange smell, not as good as our country. Let me tell you, I brought a lot of good things from my hometown this time. I will cook them for my granddaughter. If you stop me again, I will let Xiaofeng beat you. I nodded obediently, poured 2 more glasses of water, and then waited quietly. At this time a faint groan came from the bedroom. Cold sweat instantly soaked my back. It was Lin Feng's voice. He was still awake. My mother-in-law stood up at once. Good. Xiaofeng took Xiaoshu out. Who is in the bedroom? You shameless man, he pushed me away. Walking to the bedroom, I gripped the fruit knife in my pocket. Is this the end? They can't do this. It's too easy for them. How can they not experience the suffering that Yining has suffered? Mother-in-law opened the bedroom door. A strong smell of blood overflowed. She stood there. Old man, come quickly. Mother-in-law screamed and turned around. Her face was just touching my face holding the fruit knife. I smiled at her and bang. Mother-in-law rolled her eyes and fainted on the ground. Father-in-law stood up from the sofa, took a few steps and fell straight to the ground. He drank 3 glasses of water. The effect of the medicine came very quickly. There were 4 people crammed into the big bedroom, and it was still a bit crowded. I tied my parents-in-law to the bed with 2 dog chains delivered early in the morning. These chains, it was a leash for a fierce dog, and people absolutely could not break free. After my father-in-law woke up, he started cursing. I chopped off one of Lin Feng's fingers with a kitchen knife and he stopped. My mother-in-law cried and begged. My daughter-in-law didn't mean it. I didn't know it would kill Yining. Please let Lin Feng go. Let my son go. You can ask me to do anything. I thought about it and said, if you let Yining come back to life, I will let all of you go. I can also let you stab me a few times, as long as Yining comes back to life. My mother-in-law didn't answer me, but kept begging me incoherently. How about this? I steamed a pot of yellow rice in the kitchen, which is also sticky and glutinous. You will definitely like it. As long as you finish this pot of yellow rice, I will let everyone go, okay? I brought 2 plates from the kitchen. Yellow rice. It was inconvenient for them to be tied up. So I divided the yellow rice into small pieces and rinsed each piece with cold water. The yellow rice in the plate was not hot at all and the surface was crystal clear. I handed the plate over and said, eat it. It has just been rinsed with cold water and is not hot at all. My mother-in-law wiped her tears and looked incredulous. She said she would let us go as long as we finished eating. I nodded, but the time limit is 5 minutes. You have wasted 30 seconds. My father-in-law, who had been silent for a long time, took the plate and stuffed the yellow rice into his mouth directly with his hands and swallowed it without chewing. In less than 5 minutes, the 2 of them finished 2 large plates of yellow rice. I kept my promise and untied their chains. My mother-in-law crawled to see Lin Feng and my father-in-law had a fierce look on his face. He was about to pounce on me. I calmly stepped back step by step. Suddenly, my father-in-law fell to the ground, holding his chest and rolling on the ground screaming. The same thing happened to my mother-in-law. He even woke up Lin Feng when he fell. Lin Feng had a pale face like a ghost and asked blankly, Mom, what's wrong with you? I kindly explained to him that the yellow rice just out of the pot was dipped in cold water. Although there was no steam on the outside, it was still hot inside. Mom and Dad must have burned their gastric mucosa. The stomach will be perforated in a while. This is also a specialty of my hometown. It is delicious when mixed with white sugar. Do you want some? My mother-in-law, who had been rolling for a long time, finally stopped moving. I squatted down and found that blood began to come out of her mouth. Mom, do you know my Yining it was so painful when I was young. Do you regret it now? The mother-in-law stared at me without saying a word. If you answer me, I will send you and your son to the hospital. What do you think? The mother-in-law's eyes suddenly lit up. She grabbed my trouser legs and said with difficulty, I regret it. Please, I kicked her away. Haha, I lied to you this time. I tidied myself up and went out. I watched Yining's small body being pushed into the incinerator. I comforted her while crying. Yining, don't be afraid, your mother has already avenged you, and your mother will go to accompany you soon. I bought a beautiful urn for Yining and carried her home. When I opened the door of my house, I unexpectedly found that Lin Feng had crawled out. The bloodstains meandered all the way from the bedroom to the door. What a tenacious vitality. It's a pity I was not very lucky. I walked to the bedroom and saw that the knife on Lin Shue's stomach had been pulled out. There was blood all over the floor and she was dead. I went back to the door and watched Lin Feng struggling. You have a cruel heart. Lin Shue was pregnant with your child, but you just gave up on him just like you gave up on Yining so easily. In fact, the first thing you should have done after breaking the rope was to throw something down from the window so that someone would call the police. Oh, I forgot. You lost too much blood and have no strength. It's a pity that I threw away your cell phones a long time ago. Lin Feng's mouth moved, and I could probably tell that he wanted to say that I would not let you go even if I became a ghost. I smiled. Do you regret it? I really like to see the regretful look in your eyes. You'd better pray that my Yining has a good rebirth, otherwise. I didn't know who would not let go of whom next. I locked the door, curled up on the sofa holding Yining's urn, and told her stories. I told her about the anticipation of the day I found out I was pregnant with her, the difficulties during childbirth, and the joy when I first saw her, her loud cry when she was born, and the butterfly-like birthmark on her arm, how she cried in January, made a fuss in February, could lift her head in March and turned over in May. Mom has never been separated from you for so long. Mom misses you so much. Lin Feng is really a cockroach. He actually crawled to the door and unlocked it. I heard him knocking on the neighbor's door. And then there were screams, the sound of the police, and finally, the police car and ambulance stopped downstairs of my house with a roar. I wanted to take a knife to end my life, but I don't know why my body, it seemed as if my brain wasn't listening. I couldn't move a finger. The police came in with guns drawn. Put down what you're holding and put your hands up. I shook my head and opened my mouth with difficulty. When you shoot, don't hit Yin's urn. Several policemen rushed over and pulled me to the ground. I knelt on the ground, desperately protecting the urn, my nails digging into my arms, shouting like a madman. Don't touch my Yin, shoot, hit my back. Just when the police and I were in a stalemate, my mother came and the police stopped her from coming over. She couldn't stop crying when she looked at me. Let me over, she's my daughter, she's not a bad person, let me over and tell her. After all, my mother came to me, I saw looking at her, Wan Yin is dead, Lin Feng's family killed her. But it doesn't matter, I have already taken revenge. Mom, I want to go to accompany Yin, she is still breastfeeding. What will she do without me? Mom hugged me. Yin, what will Mom do if you leave? Mom will have no daughter. I thought about it. I can't let my mother experience the same pain of losing a daughter as I did. I can't bear it. I handed the urn to her, and then surrendered. My parents-in-law and Lin Shui, they had died before the police arrived. The cause of death was excessive blood loss. After Lin Feng was sent to the hospital, the doctor tried his best to rescue him, but unfortunately the fruit knife I stabbed him with was covered with rust. His wound was seriously infected, and he died in the hospital. My revenge was perfect. After a psychiatric evaluation, when I committed the crime, I was under the influence of severe mental illness, so I was exempted from the death penalty. However, because my revenge method was very cruel, the number of deaths was large, and the social impact was bad. I had to serve 20 years in a special psychiatric hospital. My good friend Yi accompanied me, and my mother came to see me every week. The days of serving my sentence were not difficult. Later, my mental condition stabilized and my sentence was repeatedly reduced. At the age of 39, I was released from prison. With the support of my mother, I selected a donor with similar facial features to E from the sperm bank, and then selected the baby's gender through test tubes. After 10 months of pregnancy and 1 day of delivery, the newborn baby had a light red birthmark on his forearm, shaped like a butterfly. Mom finally saw you again. The full text is over.